Hello, YouTube and Quentin, again, since you're my one and only subscriber, dude. So I'm making these videos for you on this beautiful Gen 5 GTS. I do love it, and you're right. It is a sexy beast for sure. You know, I noticed when I look at the video that it really doesn't do this paint job justice. Anybody who's looking into one of these cars, Quentin, if that's you, I know you're interested in the Gen 3s or 4s more, but the paint job on this car is absolutely phenomenal. It takes them 160 hours at Prefix to do this paint job. You know, they probably build 15 Corvettes in about that amount of time. That's how much time they spend just on the paint. In the video, I noticed that it looks almost pinkish. This car is a really beautiful red, and unfortunately, this camera is just not really picking up how nice it is and how red it is. It's more of a Ferrari red than a pink. It kind of looks in the video. Anyway, I'm going to get on to the topic of this video, which I alluded to in the last video, and that is the alarm system. Interestingly enough, this car, as you know, I'm sure Quentin and anybody else who knows these cars, can have its hood opened from the outside of the car. So I just click this thing to make sure it's unlocked, because if it is locked and I pull this handle, it is freaking loud. And in fact, I've done it before and I've scared the shit out of myself so bad that every time I open this hood now, it's sort of like a dog that's been like smacked on the nose for barking or anything else. I don't know. I'm frightened to open the hood. I cringe and hope that it doesn't go off, because it's the horn of the car blaring like over and over and over again. It'll keep going as long as the hood's open. So yes, you can open the hood from the exterior of the car, but quite honestly, anybody who does that, who you don't want to kind of thing when you're not there, they're not going to stick around, because it is loud, and anybody within a block or two is going to know what's going on, particularly you if you're anywhere near the car. Anyway, the interesting thing that I had going on with this car, right at around Christmas, it was a few weeks before Christmas, and we went out to go get our Christmas tree. And what was interesting is we pulled in with the FJ here, with the Christmas tree up on the roof, and we were outside, out in the driveway there. And my wife went into the garage and walked in front of the Viper, and it literally started honking at her like the alarm was going off, and I hadn't touched anything. It was really bizarre. And and oddly enough, it did it a couple more times, and it was only when my wife walked by the front of the car, which was hilarious, because as you might know, a lot of us guys, married guys, consider a car like this our mistress. And so I kind of made a joke that it didn't like her, and that basically, you know, the mistress wasn't happy with her coming near it. What was going on was, interestingly, a result of my attempt to heat this garage. Now, it is heated in the sense that if you look over here, I've got 3 vents that I did this summer in anticipation of the winter here to put heat into this garage. The one on the right and the one on the left are from my furnaces. I have 2 gas furnaces. One furnace powers or heats the main floor and the basement, and the other one does the top floor only. Now the middle one, you might wonder, well, what's that one for? Well, actually, this one, and it's pumping out hot air right now beautifully, is from our dryer. I decided, why waste all that heat and pump it out into the atmosphere when, you know, I can pump that into the garage. And in fact, that dryer vent with this little space heater right here in this garage, I can get it up. Like right now, we're sitting at about, I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, there we go. We're sitting at about +5 or 40 degrees. With those 2 things going, I can get it up closer to 60 in here. And so if I'm going to work on the car on this or my S2000 or my WX STI or the Aprilia, anything, whatever. I just crank those things on for about a half an hour, and it's amazing. I blocked off a hole up here, up to the, I don't know why the hell that was there, but I put plastic there and taped it up this summer. And then these garage doors actually do a pretty darn good job of keeping the cold air out. You can see it's pretty well sealed there. There's a little bit of daylight coming through, but not much. So the garage never really gets much below 32 Fahrenheit or 0 Celsius, no matter how cold it gets outside. It can be negative 30 Celsius, and which is getting pretty darn cold in Fahrenheit even. That's probably about negative 10 or 15. Anyway, it always stays pretty warm in here, but I decided I want to warm it up. Well, interestingly enough, and one thing that I hadn't counted on was the fact that, of course, the air coming out of this vent is very humid. It's drier air, so it's got a lot of water vapor in it. What ended up happening, what I figured out, was there's a sensor, and the sensor is right here. This is where the sensor is on both sides of the latches. The latch comes down, the hood comes down in here. So you see this bar here, it comes down into here, and then this sensor here is what will set off the horn if it gets unlatched while the car is locked. And then, as you can see right over here. Now, what I thought was maybe the sensors were dirty or the connection wasn't right. So I took out some contact cleaner, and this was pretty funny. I sprayed the contact cleaner in there and hooked them back up. This car would not shut up. It literally made the connection, and I had to disconnect the battery on it to get it to shut up. What I then realized was, holy crap, what has happened is actually moisture has been getting into the sensor, and that is what set off the alarm. So what I did was I took my handy dandy heat gun right there, and I decided to dry the sensors out. I dried the sensors out. I hooked up the battery. I hooked them all back up, the sensors and everything, locked it, and it's been perfect ever since. So anyway, anyone out there that's got a Viper and their alarm keeps going off intermittently or whatever, I would suggest you take your heat gun and be careful. Don't put it right up to the thing, obviously, but due to distance, I can tell you that when I did that to this sensor over here, and I took that heat gun to it, there was literally visibly moisture rising up and evaporating out of the sensor. So I knew that was what I had done wrong. So that's about it for that. I'll just show you the outside. Texas boy living in Texas. Well, I flight instructed in Houston for a summer when I was in law school, and this is what it looks like here. This is no Texas. No short sleeve weather here. Look at the icicles on the S2000. Look at that. This is my son's WRX over there. Great car. That's an 02 WRX. Very clean, as you can see. 16-year-old little brat. Pretty spoiled little punk. And this is my STI out here. This one is filthy right now, by the way. But it's nice inside. I keep the inside clean. It's just warming up here to about 32 Fahrenheit over this weekend, 0 Celsius and +1 Celsius. So I'm going to wash it up and clean it up. But anyway, this is why the Viper doesn't go anywhere. And this car has been sitting there for months. I do have a block heater on it, as you can see, a cord down there that I keep going when the temperatures are really cold, because even though I know the antifreeze in there will keep it good, never know when you need to start it up as a backup car. If I needed it for a backup, if the STI broke down, I would use it as a backup. And I don't want to start it cold, and it takes a long time, of course, for a block heater to get the block as warm as I'd like it before I start it. But as I said in the last video, that car's been sitting there for months, and it has no battery tender on it whatsoever. I could fire that thing up anytime I want, and in fact, I'll probably do a video on that just to prove these people on the internet who think that if you leave a car for months, it's got to have a battery tender. That's a bunch of nonsense. Anyway, that's what it looks like around here. So, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'm going to shut this. Actually, I'm going to clean off. When I opened it there, what happens, you see, is down here, that's ice that froze to the bottom of my door. And actually, when you try and open it, it won't open very well. And then what happened was with the previous owner, which I can tell, this is exactly what happened. It actually broke this whole thing. So I've when we bought this house, this garage door wasn't working. They had it totally blocked off. And so I got a piece of wood and I drilled holes and I reinforced that and rehooked it all back up, and it's worked beautifully ever since. But I can see what the problem is here. I've got a tool that I'm going to clean that off with and then carry on. So these are the problems that you got to overcome if you're going to live in the Great White North and have cars and garages and whatnot. So anyway, cheers, take care.